The surviving gliders under the command of Thomas are ready to fulfill the last and most dangerous mission. To save their friends, they are ready to infiltrate behind enemy lines and destroy the deadly, wicked labyrinth. Getting answers to all questions. The movie begins with Brenda and Jorge waiting for a wicked train carrying teenagers resistant to the virus. Acting brazenly, the pair distract the train's drivers and provoke them to call for reinforcements in the form of a SWAT plane. While Brenda and Jorge create the distraction, Thomas and Vince approach the train from behind to climb on top of it and free the hostages. Firing back at the armed soldiers, Thomas and Vince break the bracing to disconnect part of the cars. As soon as the train stops, the wicked fighters return to the lost cars and open fire to kill. Thomas and Vince defend themselves, while Newt and Frypan do welding work to disconnect the immunicar. Meanwhile, an airplane carrying fighters traps Brenda and George, forcing them to surrender. The soldiers are ready to capture the rebels, but it turns out to be a trap. Vince's team surrounds the soldiers and ejects an airplane to use to evacuate the others. Back at the train and the airplane, Jorge hooks the train car and carries the teenagers to safety. As a result of a successful operation, all the detainees are released. Thomas checks the wagon and realizes that the plan has failed, as his best friend Minho is not among the prisoners. Eris reports that the guy is being held in Wicked and sent to the last city where they are trying to develop a vaccine against the infected. Thomas tries to devise a plan to infiltrate the enemy base to find and free Minho, but Vince doesn't support him. They have freed 100 teenagers resistant to the virus and are about to leave the land. No one is willing to risk it to save one person because it threatens disastrous consequences. Soon the group has to turn off the lights as Wicked planes, under Jensen's orders, start scouting the area, trying to find Thomas and his friends. During the night, the boy decides to escape from the camp to free Minho without getting the others involved. Newt and Frypan stop him, as they won't let Thomas leave alone and are willing to do anything to help their comrade. Meanwhile, Minho is subjected to hallucinations and computer simulations in which he is placed in a maze. The guy tries to escape from a huge monster, but he fails. At the same moment, Teresa and the doctors of the Wicked laboratory drain his blood to create a serum and test it on one of the infected. Thomas, Newt, and Frypan set out to find a town used by Wicked as a secret base. Along the way, the guys notice a tunnel and are hesitant to enter it, as it's the perfect place for the infected. Realizing it's a shortcut, they drive in and soon stop after spotting an infected in front of them. The group decides to carefully drive around him, but run into a mob of infected, attacking their vehicle. The guys try to flee, but Frypan fails to control the vehicle, causing the SUV to roll over. The trio fights off the advancing infected, but there are too many of them. When it seems that there is no chance for rescue, Jorge and Brenda appear and help the guys to escape from the tunnel full of infected zombies. Soon the group notices the city, but don't know how to get inside as it is enclosed by a brand new wall, becoming an impregnable fortress. Meanwhile, Ava and Teresa convince investors to continue sponsoring the clinical trials. The wealthy consider creating new cities, but the doctors convince them to continue their search for a vaccine to save humanity from extinction. A little later, Ava suggests that Teresa erase her memory so she won't remember Thomas and the betrayal, but the girl wants to remember everything so she knows what she's fighting for. Thomas and his team approach the city, but the guy has a chip in his body that is detected by the drones. Upon learning that the guy is nearby, Jensen orders to open fire to kill, with no regard for human casualties. The team manages to escape and hide from the gunfire, but unknown, masked men kidnap them. At the hideout, it turns out that the head of the resistance is Gully, who survived after Minho pierced his chest with a spear. Thomas attacks the guy since he caused Chuck to lose his life, but Newt calms his friend down. Gully reveals that he is working with the powerful businessman who saved his life in the labyrinth. After meeting with Lawrence, Thomas arranges that he will provide the serum and prolong the businessman's life, provided he is shown where the Wicked is. Part of the group remains in the safe house as a guarantee that Thomas will return. Meanwhile, Gully, Thomas, Newt, and Frypan sneak over the fence and find themselves inside the city, where they spot Teresa working in the main tower. Meanwhile, Teresa injects an infected girl with a serum based on Minho's blood. The patient gets better, which pleases the doctors and Jensen, giving a chance for a new future for all of humanity. Realizing that the city's security has been doubled, Thomas, Newt, and Gully devise a plan of action. As they prepare it, Newt and Thomas fight heavily, as Thomas is afraid of putting Teresa in danger and doesn't want to mess with her. The others see this as the only viable course of action, which leads to disagreement. A little later, Newt and Thomas reconcile, after which Newt admits that he is infected and could lose control of himself at any moment. Teresa tries to talk to Minho and explain that she is doing a good deed. Recognizing the girl as a traitor, the prisoner attacks her and hides a sharp object in his pockets, which can be useful for self-defense. A few minutes later, Teresa learns that the girl she injected has returned to her previous state, after which she lost her life. Taking another failure to heart, Teresa leaves the compound and notices Thomas on the street. Following the guy, she confesses that she does not regret the betrayal and believes that she did the right thing. Since she can't be trusted, Gully attacks Teresa and captures the girl to use her to infiltrate the wicked building. At Lawrence's hideout, Teresa declares that it will all be over as soon as she manages to find a cure. Gully and the group members convince her to help them in order to free Minho and the other virus-resistant teens. Agreeing to help, Teresa extracts chips from the boys' necks that track their location. A little later, the trio, disguised as wicked soldiers, infiltrate the building and accompany Teresa. After sneaking past the guards and immobilizing the armed men, the teens free the captive children. Gully stays with them to escort the group to Brenda and Fry Pan. Thomas, Newt, and Teresa go in search of Minho. At some point, they accidentally find themselves in the same elevator with Jensen. The man has good instincts and guesses that the soldiers next to the girl are Thomas and his comrade in disguise. The armed soldiers surround the guys, but Teresa pushes them away and blocks the door. She saves them from bullets, but at the same time justifies her action by trying to capture the guys resistant to infection. While a group of teenagers hide in a bus in the parking lot and try to escape, Thomas and Newt continue their search for Minho. Hearing his friends approaching, he tackles the doctor and the guards, then escapes from the lab. Meeting up, Newt, Thomas, and Minho flee and lock themselves in one of the rooms. The soldiers are about to break down the door, so the guys have to jump out of the window right into the fountain in front of the building entrance. Here, the guys are also surrounded by soldiers, but one of them turns out to be Gully, eliminating the threat. At the same time, the organization's men chase the bus and trap Brenda in a dead end. The girl is ready to surrender, but fires a signal pistol. Fry Pan, operating a crane, hooks the bus and saves the children by moving the transportation outside the city. While the survivors try to escape, Teresa, who has obtained a sample of Thomas's blood, analyzes it and becomes convinced that it can heal the infected. At the same time, Lawrence raises a riot to declare war on the leaders of the city. The businessman sacrifices himself and blows up the gates, after which a chain reaction begins to destroy buildings. The rioters make their way into the city and create anarchy by waging war on the soldiers. Meanwhile, Teresa uses a loudspeaker and tells Thomas the truth, begging the boy to return to the lab and provide his blood for the development of a vaccine. Newt is getting worse, as the guy is infected and about to turn into a zombie. Thomas sends Gully and Minho to Brenda to fetch the serum. Realizing that time is short, Thomas helps Newt get to the shelter, but it's too late. The boy gives his friend his pendant, after which he loses his sanity and attacks him. Newt is not in control of his actions, but tries to fix it and get even. Threatening Thomas's life, he decides to use a knife, but at the last moment he pulls himself together and, trying to save his friend, stabs the blade into his heart. Soon, Brenda arrives on the scene with the serum, realizing she is too late. Thomas goes to the main building and meets Ava, who runs the lab. He would like to shoot the doctor, but she confirms that his blood can save humanity. Thomas changes his mind and lets the woman live, but at the same moment, Jensen executes her and puts the guy to sleep. A short while later, Thomas wakes up in a laboratory where he sees Jensen and Teresa. The rich man realizes that Thomas's blood will allow him to become rich, as only the prophet can decide who will be saved and who will lose their lives. Realizing that Jensen is interested in money rather than saving humanity, Teresa attacks him and hits the man over the head. The couple tries to escape, but Jensen shoots Thomas and wounds the guy in the stomach. The guy and the girl hide in the lab, but realize that there is nowhere to retreat to. Thomas throws a heavy object at the glass behind which are the infected. Breaking free, they attack the millionaire and tear him apart. The building is on fire, so the couple has to climb to the roof. Losing hope of rescue, they kiss and apologize to each other for their mistakes. It seems to be over, but an airplane takes off above them. Jorge and Vince return to pick up their friends, but they can't get close to them. Teresa helps Thomas jump and escape, then falls down following the collapsing floor. Thomas takes the loss painfully and passes out. A short time later, he wakes up in his tent and learns that the group has managed to escape by creating a new home for themselves, which Vince has named Quiet Harbor. After retrieving Newt's pendant, Thomas finds a farewell letter from a friend who consciously sacrificed himself. In honor of the dead, the group sets up a stone on which they can leave the name of a loved one who is not alive. Among them are Chuck, Albie, and others, including Newt. In the morning, Thomas writes Teresa's name and goes ashore, after which he finds the last vial of the cure to create the serum in his pocket. Thank you for watching and supporting us. Please like and subscribe. See you very soon.